Well, hello, you beautiful people. This is Anthony White, the Orange Tie Guy, and welcome to tonight. Oh, no, that's not tonight with Anthony White. Friday night with Anthony White. I realized something fascinating. I hate looking into a camera and talking. I am not a YouTuber. Simple, straight, and true. I like to actually talk to people. But I'm also not a fan of the Zoom format because with that, it's kind of one of those problematic scenarios. So, what I kind of decided to do, and this is a little bit of a different format, is I'm not going to look at the camera all that much because honestly, I don't think you want me to be staring at the camera and staring at your face if you're watching this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multitask, as you saw before, and I'll even show you again. I don't read my mail every single day because I don't need to. And I've got a pile of stuff. You can't see how thick it is, but it's a mound is really what it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open my mail and talk to you about this. So tonight, Friday Night with Anthony White, is about, celestial dating leads to, or I should say, increases mating. It's absolutely true. That's the interesting thing about it. So everybody's like, oh my goodness, so am I going to get some if I, celestial date? Well, that depends. Depends, is that what you really want to do? Because that's not celestial dating. Celestial dating is the process by which you get to know someone better, meaning you start to build a friendship. I had a date last night. It was fun and enjoyable. I basically asked her out, I think it was Sunday. Yeah, I asked her out Sunday. And it was nice because ultimately I said, hey, listen, don't expect, how do I say this? See, this is going to be terrible because I'm going to have to try and recall how I say this. Because typically when I ask somebody on a date, I said, hey, are you, well, this is what I did Sunday. Are you open to dating? Simple question, right? Yes or no? They say no. Okay, cool. Well, if you change your mind, I'd love to take you out sometime, so let me know. Simple enough, walk away, you're done, right? No pressure, no problems, nothing like that. Ah, Karen's so wonderful. I have a beautiful friend named Karen, and she always sends me stuff like this. Tinkerbell. Why in the world would I want Tinkerbell? It just says thank you on it. You probably can't see it because of the reflections and all that other stuff. But anyway, she's awesome. Nonetheless, what happened is I just asked the question. She said, yeah, I'm interested in, I'm open to dating. I said, cool. I said, well, actually, I don't think I said cool. But I'm going to try and recall how I said this so it can be effective for you other gentlemen who may be watching. But I said, well, I'd like to take you on a date. Would you like to go on a date sometime this week? And she's like, yeah. I said, okay, great. And I gave her some options. I said, I'm available Wednesday or Thursday, and she said, well, I'm working Wednesday, and yeah, Thursday would be great. I said, awesome, great. Now, just so you know, I date for friendship. So this whole point is just for me to be able to get to know you and make friends. And that was pretty much it, No harm, no foul, no worry. And that's the thing that I think is difficult for people to realize is that the truth is, it is super simple to ask somebody on a date. Here's the thing, though. Be prepared to say, or hear, no. Ladies, if you ask me on a date, likelihood I'll say no. Simple truth is that I go on dates with girls that I want to go on dates with. But there's a lot more to it, right? It could be that they're not ready. It could be the wrong time of day. I mean, think about it. If you're tired and you're just like, I want to go home and, I don't want to do anything. And then somebody comes your way and says, hey, you want to go on a date? No, I don't. I just want to go home and relax. So it's like, ooh, maybe bad timing, right? But for those that are pessimistic, maybe that's not the best way to bring this up. So, hence the orange tie guy. Optimism, right? And it's interesting because motivation is always that key. So, again, celestial dating increases mating. I have got to tell you that physical intimacy between a husband and a wife increases dramatically when they love each other, when they can stand each other, when they actually want to be with each other. And the best way to do that is to date for friendship. And then when you have two best friends that actually want to be together, whoa, right? I find it fascinating. I don't know if you do or not, but I think it's interesting when you have people that go around and they fake like they're in love. They pretend that they love each other. They go through the motions. Well, I don't want to divorce him or her, but, well, yeah, they do the job, right? They get the job done. They're a husband or they're a wife, right? That's sufficient enough, right? Totally. By the way, I bought me this interesting pillow here. Super soft. I bought it for like $7 at Walmart. I convinced my sister to buy one. I think I bought like 4 of them for family members. No promo in Walmart. They don't pay me for it. So, maybe don't buy it. Maybe there's something better at I don't know, a personal place that you go to. I don't know, somewhere closer. But reality check is that, again, if you want to have that physical intimacy and stop lying, you do. Like, ladies, you may not think of that, on the long term as far as, no, I don't want him touching me kind of thing. You like to cuddle, right? You like to be able to embrace or feel, loving companionship toward the person that you're with, right? So, same thing with us guys. Yep, that's a physical drive. That's something that motivates us. So, celestial dating. Let's talk about this. I had this conversation with someone just the other week, and it was interesting because they said, well, that's too easy. And I was like, yeah, it is. I said, well, no, but it's not that easy. And I'm like, wait a second. So you just said that it is too easy, but you're saying it's not that easy? What do you mean? And asking questions and probing, it was one of these things where from what I understood from him, it was that he has this underlying idea that it has to be difficult, like conquering a mountain, right? Or defeating a lion or something like that. Well, people's initial fears to confront somebody and bring or draw upon emotion is pretty terrifying to some people. But that's where you have to identify, okay, who am I and do I like myself? So I started writing a book years ago, and I am a terrible writer. I'm a good talker, but I'm a terrible writer. And usually my context and information typically has come from coaching, counseling, even having just, side conversations with people. And it was one of those reality checks for me that if I sit down and type, I'm not going to get out my information. So one thing I've thought about is just, again, oration. I know that Gary Vaynerchuk does this. I know that Robert Kiyosaki does this. I think a lot of authors actually do this, and then they hire a ghostwriter, right? Somebody to write it for me. I maybe need a ghostwriter, But when it comes down to it, the context is always more effective when I actually have somebody that I'm interacting with or talking to. And it's interesting because, I don't record my coaching sessions with people to then dictate them and put them in books. Although, that's not a bad idea. But no, I'm not going to do that. But it's interesting to reflect on how much information I've kind of gone over, but it is all very specific to individuals. As I was with a friend this week, it was interesting because she had brought up this notion and said, you're very analytical. And it's interesting because I think as a child, I was never analytical. I was always just, going off of impulse, right? I was one of those ADD kids, that couldn't sit still, loved being outside. Now I'm kind of, gaining a little bit of COVID weight, right? Don't we justify our increasing in size due to COVID, right? But I thought about this and I thought to myself, you know what? Enough justifying, enough, rationalizing this. I got to attack this thing, meaning my weight, right? But here's what's fascinating. Far too many people would rather, again, avoid the problem, like dating, and they would try to justify or rationalize why this isn't right for them, why it's not good for them. I've had too many individuals, ladies actually, in fact, more than guys, now that I think about it, who rationalize and say to themselves, well, I've just kind of accepted I'm not getting married. Seriously? That's messed up. That sucks, just to put it plainly. Because it's built in us to be a companion. It's built in us to be able to be one half of a whole. Now, yes, you should be whole yourself in the sense of I don't need somebody else to be good or better or whatever. But reality is, yeah, you do. Like, it's not saying anything about your worth, that you're worthless without somebody else. No, not at all. You're great, and your soul is great in the sight of God. But here's what's interesting: when you are two halves of a whole, it's interesting because I've noticed this in my life and even the lives of the people that I interact with that are single. They are missing out. And I got to tell you, I wish I was married like out of high school. Well, not really. But, at like 22, something like that. Because then I would have grown together with someone else. At my age, I've got to find somebody who's grown by themselves and me grown by myself. And then there has to be like opposition to bring us together, or conflict resolution, or some form to be able to bring us together to actually justify, like, well, why would I change my life? Because physical intimacy is not enough. Like, I mean, honestly, if I wanted to, I could just go out and be physically intimate with anybody. Anybody can do that, really. There's also self-satisfaction, which I do not recommend. It actually destroys you on the psychological level, not just that, on the emotional level, and totally messes up your hormones like dopamine and oxytocin. But when it comes down to it, it's this concept that so many people try to justify, like, where they're standing right now, rather than saying, where am I going? So I have a few other analytical individuals that I love listening to. Daniel Pink is one of them. And Dan Pink brings out, and he's more of like a social psychologist, like a social behavioralist anyway. He analyzes people's behaviors and also marketing in the sense of, how do I get these people to do this, or how do we help them to change their minds? And he finds out that innately people are good and they want to do the right thing, right? So if I have somebody who comes up to me and I have no desire to go on a date with them, and I remember this in my younger life, there was a girl at a school dance who asked me out, Sarah, and I did not want to dance with her. I wanted to dance with Leslie, but Sarah just asked me. And here's what's interesting. I faked like I was sick. Now, granted, I was a child, okay? I faked like I was sick for almost an hour to avoid dancing with Sarah because I wanted to dance with Leslie. And so I pretty much shot my opportunity with dancing with Leslie, because I could have just danced with Sarah, been done, and then danced with Leslie after. Well, it's interesting because oftentimes we try to look of we are defaulted to no, right? I can bring up a concept, a theory, an idea, and people are like, no, salesman, right? When you go look for a car, no. Like instantly you're like triggered to say no. If they ask you, hey, well, this is a great car, and you're always thinking, oh, well, how are they going to try and get me, right? No. But there are conditions that based us off of giving in, like saying yes. And Dan brought up this idea of timing. And I love it because he explains the fact that people during the time of day, they have peaks and valleys. He said, when you first start your day, he says you're more optimal on saying yes. Like, for example, if you were to ask for a promotion at work, right? Then your boss is more apt to say yes, like earlier in the day. But as it kind of goes down, the no's are going to happen. But then when there's a break, it's like a relief of, having to do whatever. You've stepped away, you come back, and then you're back at that high again, the yes area. And then as the day goes on, and then if you take a break, great. Well, it's funny because apparently statistically it's also shown this in judges who actually grant parole. It's also the same as far as lack of mishaps that happen in hospitals. Like more accidents happen like in the afternoon at hospitals, like shots or diagnosis of certain things, than it is in the morning. And it's like, what the heck? And it's like, and he said, if there's anything life altering, I will not go in the afternoon. Oh, it will always be in the morning. Like somewhere where they're, again, open, they're alive, they're awake, rather than I'm tired, I want to get out of here. Or maybe they're just not, again, cognizant of what is in front of them, or conscientious of, oh, well, I didn't quite notice this or that or whatever, right? This is why multiple opinions are always a good thing, and maybe going different times of day, to kind of go for that same, option or idea, right? So it was interesting just to kind of think about this with timing. And it's fascinating because if we're not ready ourselves, then how will we be ready when the timing is right? And I thought about this often in the sense of my own life, right? For me, I try to time things when it's appropriate, right? Think about New Year's resolutions, right? We always, the very beginning of the year, we're always like, yes, yes, like, ooh, I'm gonna do this, right? Or beginning of the month, or beginning of the week, or whatever it is, right? We kind of focus our time and attention. We say, okay, this is right. Well, when do we kind of decide for our lives or decide for ourselves, you know what? I'm ready to actually go out of my comfort zone and ask somebody on a date, or to ask for a friend, or to build a relationship with someone else. If not, I'm not like prepared, and I read this very clearly all the time. If you are prepared, you shall not fear. If you're prepared, don't worry about it. Don't be afraid of it. You're not gonna. Because anything that comes your way. Think about this. I love Michael Jordan because he was like the epitome of when I was watching sports, when it comes to like somebody who was a zealot, who was amazing at what he did. And it was because he had motivation, and he was very, very in the zone, if you want to call it. And I mean, that granted them, meaning the Chicago Bulls, tons of championships. I mean, I think if they got rings like they do in the NFL, he would have had rings on all of his hands, kind of thing, or all of his 8 fingers, except for his thumbs. But it's that reality of what's my motivation. Well, I got to tell you, for guys, mating, yeah, it's a motivation. And it's not something that's ew, gross, or bad or anything like that. It's this idea of bonding with somebody. I talk about the 3 basic human needs, right? Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Food. I got to tell you, I just went and got me some food. Had some Indian yesterday. Loved it. Good motivation, right? Then safety or security. Like being able to feel safe and comfortable. A home, a comfortable space, right? Somewhere to do your stuff. Like the reason why I put up this back wall and everything, because I didn't like the white wall behind me. So this is more secure, safe, if you want to call it, right? I don't want the bland background kind of stuff. I even have my lights up a little bit more today. I think I'm going to make it a little bit more luminescent rather than, the dark kind of a thing. I even went out and bought me some shelves, so you might see some shelves, put on the wall here in the next few videos in the future. But I've recognized it's interesting because you have to face the fact that in us, we have that food, security, and belonging. Well, guess what? As a man, a provider, presider, protector, the 3 Ps, I got to tell you, I want to be able to have somebody to protect. Simple enough. I want to be able to have my little pack, if you want to call it, right, family, to be able to preside over, to be able to take responsibility for, and to be accountable for. I want that. It's built in me, in my DNA as a man, right? It's that Y chromosome. It's a part of it. But also to be able to provide for, I said preside and protect. So provide for. It's interesting because as a man, it actually gives us more of a motivation if we know we're not just caring for ourselves. If we're just caring for ourselves, guess what? We don't put a ton of our time into it. If we know that we have roles and responsibilities that preside for or to provide for others, guess what? It helps us be better. It's innate in us, right? So again, going back to celestial dating increases mating, well, guess what? It's not all about the relations there, the physical intimacy. It's that concept that comes with it, responsibilities, roles, right? Well, maybe I'm going a little too much on this, but let me focus in on one little thing. How can you preside as a guy, gentleman, if you don't preside over your own life? Good question, right? Because I've noticed with a lot of us in this generation, don't get me wrong, video games, like, what is it? I got my phone somewhere else, like, Angry Birds, ladies, guys, whatever, right? or like on the Nintendo or whatever it is, right? Atari back in the day. It's this concept that when we get stuck in this idea of Netflix or whatever, right? Even Facebook, right? We get stuck into this cycle of familiarity and, oh, well, I can do a little bit more. Like, even the concept of putting my little funny story, I put on there, celestial dating increases mating. It's a little catchy phrase, right? But it's true. I have a friend who just sent me a wedding invitation. And it was interesting because not too long ago, she was hitting on me. And I said, I love you to pieces, but yeah, we're not right for each other, kind of a thing. And I think it was awesome when she sent me a wedding, or called me up and sent me a wedding invitation. I think she texted or messaged me or something like that. Maybe she told me in person. I can't remember. But anyway, when she sent me the invitation, I thought to myself, this is cool because it's like she didn't get hung up on one dude and saying, you know what, nah, I'm good, pass, and then have that destroy her life. It was the fact that she said, you know what, I like this person. I want to get to know them better, more or better. And then if that no happened, which it did with me, then all of a sudden she redirects her attention to, okay, pass, move on, keep going, you know? But it's interesting because it's like, what is your motivation? What are you passionate about? I got to tell you, there would be probably a lot less people that are like suicidal, homicidal, people that go and blow themselves up along with other people or whatever. If there was more connecting as humans, if we would actually connect with other people, get outside, become more social, interact with people, even if it's difficult, because I got friends that are socially awkward, right? But guess what? Doesn't stop them. They still move forward. They stop caring about what other people think. One of the greatest things that I have is I have a friend, I've got a few friends that are on the spectrum, but they don't care what other people think. And I love it. And I love being around them because ultimately they're like, whatever, that's cool. If you don't like it, you don't like it. That's fine. And they move forward. So my encouragement when I think about this whole process about celestial dating, when I think about, this idea of mating, right? We want to work our way to being able to belong to an actual singularity, to be able to belong to a pack, to belong to a family, to be able to come together. And I think the moment that we start to focus and recognize, where are we at? Am I in this primal area of I need to feel safe? Or are you safe? Or is it this I need to feel like I belong? Or do you feel like you belong? Because it almost seems like the people that feel like they belong, they're the ones that actually can move on to start to assimilate other people into their life. If they're pleading for attention, begging for it, please, 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 please pay attention to me, please love me, please care about me, there's going to be a problem. Because what you're doing is you're giving your life over to that person that you're asking and begging and saying, hey, with this codependent process, if you give me attention or if you give me time, then I'll give you this or whatever. And that's a destructive pattern. But I want to leave you on a good note. So one of the interesting truths that I kind of found this week was simply this. When you want to get to know somebody, don't obsess about it. Sometimes we get caught up in this idea. So when I asked my date out for yesterday, my initial plan was to ask somebody else out. And I saw her with someone. And so I'm not going to be a jerk and just like bypass or ignore the guy that she's with and be like, hey, I want to take you out this Friday or something like that, right? That's not cool, in my opinion. But hey, do you, but I'm not going to do that. So if a lady's with a guy, great deterrent for other guys, right? Or for you to not have other guys come up to you. But it was interesting because then I started to look elsewhere as I started to say, okay, well, she's not available, so who else? And then when I saw my date yesterday, when I saw her, I said, yeah, I'm going to ask her on a date. And then I just decided, okay, cool. If the opportunity arises, meaning I'm not going to like beeline it for her and say, hey, are you free? Right? I told you how I spoke to her and just asked her, hey, are you open to, dating? Yeah, absolutely. And then we went from there. But initially, I had no plan to ask her on a date. Didn't. But, excuse me, I had it in my mind, I'm going on a date this weekend. Or this week, I should say. And I focused on that. And I said, I have this determination. And if she says no, then I'm going to ask somebody else out. And I kind of went through this pattern of, okay, who am I going to go out, ask out? I had a conversation with a friend who I've helped a little bit. And she's enabled or allowed me to be able to help her out. And she's listened really well. And I asked her, I said, hey, your task is to go and ask 3 guys on a date at the same time. Like, ask them out until the first one. And in fact, offer it up to them and say, hey, I'm free Friday, but I'm asking and seeing if multiple guys want to go. If you're the first guy to reply, sweet, then we can go. And she was kind of a little intimidated. She said, hey, I did it, kind of a thing. And she asked those guys out. I said, great. And she's like, none of them could go. I said, okay, great. Ask 3 more. She's like, no. And so she kind of, shied back away. The idea is that you just want to make friends. Make friends. Go out, get to know someone. That's it. Ladies, ask guys on dates. My friend that I was coaching, she did. And at the same time, that's what I was doing. I mean, thankfully, the first girl I actually asked said yes, but if that wasn't the case, I was going to continue to do that. Go out and make friends. That's what celestial dating is all about. You just determine for that. If you have a problem or a difficulty interacting with people, message me. I'm happy to respond. Get on celestial dating, message me. I'm happy to be able to respond back and help you out. I find it fascinating because I was on a group for a while and I was a mentor on there. I think maybe 6 people reached out to me to be a mentor for them. Oddly enough, the first one I asked and she's like, well, I just want to, talk to people better. Great, kind of helped her out with that. Second one kind of went through the process of, hey, what's this or that? And then she didn't really do much of anything in the process of mentoring. And so it seemed like she really didn't care. The third person I wanted to basically qualify. Typically, I do that by people paying me to do that. Well, I was offering my services for free in this group. And as I was doing that, I realized that when I was offering it for free, I had to ask them questions. But when I asked them or responded, they said, hey, I'm interested in your mentorship. And then I said, okay, well, what's your objective? Like, why do you want a mentor? Why do you think I'm a good mentor for you? And I went through these questionnaires and she didn't respond back. And it was interesting because I was like, okay, that was weird. And I said, would you like to, me to mentor you? And she's like, no, I'm good. And I'm like, okay. And I'm curious why you even, requested it. Well, the next one went through the process and it was the same thing. When I asked her questions like, what do you look forward to this? She's like, you know what? I think I'm good. And I'm like, why are people like asking for a mentorship and then backing down? And it was an epiphany that hit me. When you don't want to account for your actions, it's easy to just say, hey, will you help me out? But when somebody comes to you and says, okay, well, there's a level of accountability and you're looking for something for free, you don't want to be accountable for it, you back off. This is why we pay for things. This is why we invest in things. So for me, I'd recommend you invest in yourself. I'm Anthony White, the Orange Tie Guy. I hope you have a happy Friday and enjoy celestial dating.